Hi children, my name is Bantupal Damodar Rao, one of the physics faculty from Tirumala institutions. Now we are going to learn the topic refraction from the class 9th IIT. This lesson will come under into the chapter optics. In this optics we have two different chapters again, reflection and refraction. Already we have learnt about the reflection and we are going to learn now refraction, and this one also classified as two parts: refraction at plane surfaces, that means interface, and refraction at curved surfaces means at a curved interface. Okay. Now before going to learn the chapter at plane interface, let me explain what is refraction. Already we have learnt about the optics, the chapter, the study of the interaction between radiation and matter. That means how this energy in the universe interacts with matter. So if it interacts with matter, what will happen? One of the effect due to this interaction, refraction. So already I have defined here the phenomenon of varying light speed during the light travels from one medium to another medium. Phenomenon of varying light speed when the light ray travels from one medium to another medium. Here you can see on the board the light ray coming from the sun, it travels through the air and after that it enters into the water medium. So whenever you see this type of phenomena, the ray direction will be deviated like this. Actually it has to go in this path, this is the actual path, but it has been deviated due to the change in refractive index. These all things will be discussed, but the basic idea about refraction means the speed of the light will be varied. Due to that one, the direction of the light ray from its path will be deviated. These things will be discussed mathematically, and based on that we are going to solve some problems also. Okay. Let me explain some terminology in this concept refraction. This ray which is travelling in the first medium is called incident ray. After it has entered into the second medium, due to that one the path has been deviated. So this is called refracted ray. Incident ray, refracted ray. Why? Because it has been refracted due to the changing in medium. And one more thing, the straight path I have drawn here, this is called imaginary normal, because according to this normal we are observing this path, how this incident ray interfere with this interface, and after that one how will it deviate from its path. Relative to this normal we will decide, so that we will know how much angle it takes to incident with this normal and how much angle it has refracted from this normal. These things, based on these things we will go to understand deeply about the refraction. Why should we understand refraction means, here in daily life we have so many applications. That means even if you check your human body, even what you are observing, the objects in front of your face, the light rays coming from that objects and entering into your human eye, it contains some fluid. That one also one of the liquid with why should we understand this refraction concept? Because as a student in your future also you need to familiar with so many applications in your daily life, especially even in your daily life. That means even at your childhood onwards you will get the refraction with your body. That means the light ray comes from the air and enters into your human eye, that will be refracted into your eye, that will forms the image on the retina. Here also the refraction takes place, and not only that one, even for making candies also, around the candy you will see some transparent layer, so that you will feel that that will be so attractive to you, towards you, so you will buy that one. And not only that one, even we see any astronomical objects by using the telescopes, there also the light comes from the celestial bodies, especially stars, that will enter into our atmosphere. There the atmospheric refraction takes place and later enter into our telescope. There we have some lenses, some transparent material in the form of lenses, curved surfaces. There also you will experience the refraction concept, because due to this refraction we will get the apparent position of those celestial bodies. Based on that one we can identify what's happening in the universe outside of our planet Earth. Okay, these are the daily life examples. Now we are going through the mathematical level of understanding, especially by using the vector method. Let me draw the diagram to understand refraction based on the vector method. Wave front. What does it call? Wave front. So what is meant by wave front? Wave front means you need to know the structure of the light. Light means what you are observing, that is not only light. Light has the different frequencies, different wavelengths. We are observing just the 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. This is called visible light, because our eyes are sensitive for only these type of wavelengths. That's why we can see these objects based on this light. But even below this light wave, that means infrared and ultraviolet waves, those are also considered as light waves, but they cannot be observed by your eyes, because some objects will interact with that material. Based on that one also a refraction takes place. But before going to that, try to understand what is wavefront. Yes, light means simply it's a disturbance in the electromagnetic field. What does it call? Disturbance in the electromagnetic field. Disturbance in the electromagnetic field. Yes, how this disturbance will be occurred means this disturbance also explained by one of the scientists, Huygens sir. He said if the disturbance starts from one point, it forms a spherical disturbance like this. Now on this spherical surface, every point will act as another disturbance with a phase shift like this. You can see it appears like a flower. Yes, this spherical disturbance forms another spherical disturbance. Again this point on the spherical disturbance forms again another spherical disturbance like this. Again, every point on this spherical disturbance forms in this manner the disturbance will be occurred from the source of the light. Means in this universe we have the sources of the light, especially stars. Even the human beings on this planet Earth and every animal also will get the light from the one of the star named as sun. From that sun we are getting the light that will be in this wave manner. Every point source will create one more disturbance. It forms the spherical wavefront. So you are on this planet Earth. How do you feel your position on this planet Earth? Do you feel the Earth is spherical? No. You feel that this is the plane. So the same concept again we will adapt to understand the spherical wavefront concept to plane wavefront concept. That means I explained here spherical wavefront. If you take some part of the surface, that surface will act as a plane wavefront. What does it call? Plane wavefront. So if this plane wavefront interacts with any matter, what will happen? I am assuming the plane wavefront concept here to understand the refraction. So look at this, the plane wavefront. Here these wavefronts oscillating from their mean positions, Because I said this is the disturbance in the electromagnetic field. That disturbance can be sensed by your eyes, sensed by your so many objects in your daily life. So this disturbance will form lateral motion according to its direction of path. Look at this. It is oscillating this side and this side, this side and this side, this side, this side. But path of propagation is this side. So you can say oscillations are perpendicular to the propagational direction, because this is a transversal wave. Light wave is transversal wave. So you can see here you can have one electric field disturbance, another electric field disturbance, another electric field disturbance. Here we are taking the concept plane wavefront. The plane wavefront, actually I said electric field disturbance, but I used the word electromagnetic field. What does it call? Electromagnetic field. I said here one component of this field disturbance, that is electric field. Another field is there, that is magnetic field, that is perpendicular to this electric field, that is denoted with B. So if this is electric field, if this is a magnetic field, the propagation from come out of the board like this, means the light will oscillate this side and this side at the same time. It's a propagation of the direction this side. These three things are perpendicular to each other. It's transversal wave. Is it clear? So transversal wave also can be understood. As a child, I used it to explain the snake movement. What does it call? Snake movement. Once you can see, if it wants to propagate forward this side, how will it vibrate? This side, this side. In the same manner, here also electric field vibrates perpendicular to the propagational direction. The same concept I adapted here. But the thing is, I should not take only one component. The light contains two components. Those are electric field, magnetic field, E bar and B bar. Yes. So every disturbance, if I consider these two components resultant, how will it be varied when it enter from one medium to another medium? Let me explain by using the diagram. It has one electric field component this side. It has one magnetic field component this side. Yes. So what will happen? Due to these two, you will have the resultant like this. So once you can erase this B field component, E field component, you can see, I said you before, the plane wavefront that is perpendicular to its propagation. The same thing I resoluted as electric field, magnetic field. Either this is magnetic field, this is electric field, whatever, but both gives you the resultant plane wavefront like this. That means the disturbance can be sensed by your eye. That is the light what you are observing. Yes. So what will happen? Here you need to understand quantum mechanical level of understanding. What will happen? Yes. If the light is, already I told you before in the reflection concept, it is a radiation. Radiation means it's an energy which does not have rest mass. It has the mass, photon mass concept, but the radiation which has no rest mass, it always propagates. If it interacts with matter, so what will happen? This radiation contains, I said, magnetic field component, electric field component. Yes. Coming to the matter, the matter contains, what do we have? Molecules. Molecules contains again, each molecule is combination of atoms. Yes. What does it contain? Atom. Atom contains charged particles. Atom contains charged particles. particles. These charged particles interact with this radiation. Why? Because this has the electromagnetic field strength, and this one also has the electromagnetic field strength, but this is being oscillated, yes, but this one also being oscillated, but these all oscillations are balanced with each other. But whenever the light interacts with these molecules and the atoms and the charged particles, this radiation and this radiation provides you dipole moment. What does it call? Dipole moment. So it gives you acceleration of the charges. It gives you acceleration of charged particles. What you are observing, the shape or something, any object shape or something, that gives you by the subatomic particles, and the same thing, the subatomic particles has the capability to interact with the radiation. So whenever it interacts with the radiation, this radiation absorbed by these charged particles, they will accelerate in their orbitals, and again they will re-radiate. That re-radiated light is seen by you. That is what you are observing, any shape of the object. So these accelerated charges particles will re-radiate the EM field. This electromagnetic field interacts with the charged particles and produces again re-radiation of that electromagnetic field. That will be visible to us. Yes. So what are the characteristics of this re-radiate electromagnetic field? That will be discussed the vector method. Before going to understand, you need to know. That's why these all things have been explained. Yes, it has the magnetic field. So the resultant will be given as the plane wavefront. The resultant. Yes, according to the vector, I can displace this B here. I can displace this B, means magnetic field component here. So you can get the resultant light wave like this as a plane wavefront. Yes. Now what will happen means this electric field will be either reduced or increases its field strength whenever it interacts with this matter. So look at this. I assume here this electric field E1 and its re-radiated electric field, right? So E2, I denoted with E2. I assume this E2 is less than the E1, less than the E1. Mostly experimentally also they have proved this magnetic field strength will not be changed, That means whatever it has the magnitude, the same magnitude it will contain. So what you observe the change, is electric field component changed or magnetic field component changed? You can observe only the change in electric field. So due to this one, the resultant will be, let me draw properly. The resultant will be like this. So if you join this one and this one, you can see. So I assume E2 is less than the E1. So the resultant will be like this. How this E2 has been reduced means, I said you before, either this electric field component will be increased or decreased whenever it interacts with the matter. Here the molecule means combination of atoms, that will again have its own electromagnetic field. So due to these interactions, the electric field strength of this light will be decreases, either increases. So what will happen if you join this one? Actually its path is this one, but you can see it has been deviated this side. You can check from the diagram, it has to go like this. But due to this interaction, due to the decreasement of electric field, the path of the light ray has been deviated from its actual path. So this can be identified. If you take any imaginary normal, actually it makes the angle, consider that is the angle of incidence. it has to maintain the same angle if it follows the same path. But I said due to this interaction the path has been deviated. So what happens? The angle either be increased or decreased. So this will be denoted with R and called refracted angle. What does it call? Refracted angle. I denotes angle of incidence. R denotes angle of refraction. Yes. So I hope you understand what is refraction at atomic level based on the vector method by using the Huygens wavefront concept. Simply keep it in mind, refraction means change in its direction of the light ray. But here change in direction of the light ray can be taken place in the another phenomena, that is diffraction. These conditions are different. Here I said the condition is it should travel from two different media, one medium to another media, then it can be taken place. This phenomena is known as refraction. Simply in daily life examples, if you want to take, keep a straight stick in a tub of water, you can see the stick will have the different shape inside the water when compared with the outside of the water. And even if you see you can see the stick shape inside the water is different from the outside of the water. This one also one of the example for the phenomena refraction. Yes, I hope you understand the refraction based on these examples and this vector method concept. And in this refraction, I used the terms angle of incidence and angle of refraction. How this angle of incidence and the angle of refraction will be varied if there is any relation. Yes, one relation was there that was obtained by one of the scientists, Snell, in the 17th century. I used the terms angle of incidence, angle of refraction. We have understood till now what is refraction. Now the question arises, is there any relation between the angle of incidence and angle of refraction according to the materials? Yes, there was one relation that was obtained by one of the old scientists in the 17th century. In the 17th century, the name is Snell, sir. Who is that? Snell. He gave the relation by using the trigonometric ratios, how this I and R are related to each other. He said, if you take the ratio of sine of the angle of incidence and sine of the angle of refraction, both gives you the value constant. Both gives you the value constant. That means here I am taking air, water, two different media. The ray comes from the air like this. So with this normal, it makes the angle of incidence I1, consider. Now according to the refraction, it has been refracted like this with angle R1. I1 R1. Okay. So sin I1 by sin R1. What we will write? Sin I1 by sin R1. It gives you one constant. Consider X. Consider X. Okay. Now another ray that is being incident like this with lesser angle of incidence. Lesser angle of incidence. I assumed that one I2. And this one also being refracted in this way. This is R2. Again, if you take that ratio, sin I2 by sin R2, it also gives you same value of that constant X. How this was obtained means by using the geometry we can prove this Snell's law. But before going to prove, we need to know one of the term refractive index. What does it call? Refractive index. Yes, the definition and what is the significance of that quantity we will learn after this one. Yes. Refractive index, the ratio of the speed of the light in vacuum and the speed of the light in medium. Mathematically it can be written speed of the light in the vacuum in the numerator, speed of the light in medium in the denominator. Yes. Why this refractive index we want to know means this gives you one of the understanding how this light will be varied whenever it enters into the medium. I already have said if the phenomena of the light means, phenomena of refraction means the light speed will be varied, that will be taken place. This physical quantity gives you some idea how much degree it will be varied. Yes, but whenever you want to know any comparison with the basic value, the basic value will be represented in the denominator, but I have written here in the numerator. Why? Because how many times it will be varied will be known by the refractive index. That's why here the case is different. So refractive index I have written here, it's a dimensionless physical quantity. Why it has been dimensionless means you can see light speed in the vacuum also have the unit meter per second, in the medium also the unit meter per second. Both will be cancelled each other if I take the ratio. So that's why it is being said dimensionless physical quantity, but it gives you some understanding how this light speed varies in the medium when compared with the light speed in vacuum. Why the light speed in vacuum has been taken as reference? According to the special theory of relativity, the light can attain maximum speed 3 lakh kilometer per second. How much is that? 3 lakh kilometer per second. That is the maximum when there is no medium, means any massive thing. That means in the vacuum. So that's why we have taken that one as the reference. Based on that one, how this speed of the light in the medium will be changed, we will be known by this factor. Okay. Factor refractive index. By using that one, how the speed of the light is being varied whenever it travels from different medium to another medium. Yes, but how much degree it is being varied can be known by the one of the law, Snell's law. This was proposed by Snell's law during the 17th century. He said the ratio of sine of angle of incidence means sine I and the sine of angle of refraction sine R gives you constant value. In the same manner it can be defined another way, relative refractive index of any two media is constant. That means if this is the air with refractive index mu1, this is the water with refractive index mu2. The light ray comes from the air, enters into the water and deviates from its path. According to this one, sine I by sine R. Already I said this is the angle of incidence according to this normal, and this is the angle of refraction according to this normal. And mu2 mu1, yes, refractive index means I said you before the ratio of the speed of the light in vacuum and the speed of the light in air, because here the medium is air, the first medium is air and the second medium is water. So the reciprocal ratio mu2 by mu1 also equal to sine I by sine R. And one more thing, this statement of the Snell can be defined in another way. When you take the ratios of speed of the light in the first medium, means here, if the speed of the light in the air is V1, consider, in the second medium V2. Take that ratio V1 by V2. That one also gives you all constant. These three things are applicable for any two pair of media. Unless you don't change the temperature, unless you don't change the medium nature by injecting another pollutants or something. Clear? Okay. Now we are going to prove this Snell's law by using the geometry. Here we are going to prove geometrical proof of the Snell's law. Yes. Look at this. I assume two rays are going from one medium which has the refractive index mu1. Another medium refractive index mu2. From this medium to this medium it is travelling. I have taken two rays AB, CD. AB, CD are the two incident rays, and you can see from the B, if it enters into the second medium, it forms the spherical wavefront. What does it call? Spherical wavefront. Already we have learnt about this in the previous video. Here it has the radius bk vector, nothing but it shows you the direction of the refracted ray, the direction of the refracted ray of AB. That's why bk, what does it call? Refracted ray of AB. Refracted ray of AB. In the same manner, I have drawn one of the line segment BZ. BZ, it's a perpendicular distance between those two parallel incident rays. Those two parallel incident rays, AB, CD, which has the perpendicular distance BZ. Yes, whenever it enters into the second medium, those two rays, you can see still they are parallel, but they have deviated from its actual path. They have been deviated from their actual path. So here also they have some perpendicular distance. It might be equal to this one, it might be not equal to this one. That means either greater or smaller. We will be known by using this Snell's law. Very good. I, angle of incidence, or angle of refraction. The BZ I said perpendicular distance, KD, perpendicular distance between the two refracted rays. Yes. Now the Snell's law defines you sin I by sin R equal to V1 by V2. Yes, sin I, if you want to know that I, look at this, here I is there, but if you want to get that trigonometric ratio sin I, you need to form triangle. Is it possible to form here? No. For that case, by using this angle value, I obtained glancing angle of incidence 90 minus I, and I said before this AB, CD are parallel to each other, so that if this is 90 minus I, automatically this will be 90 minus I. What is that angle? BDZ. Since angle AB, assume these two ends are MN, the interface ends are MN, ABM 90 degrees minus I. This AB is parallel to CD. So by using the two parallel lines and one transversal, so that you will have 90 minus I, 90 minus I, means angle ZDB also 90 minus I. So you can see from the triangle BZD, if this is 90 minus I, and I said this is perpendicular distance, so this is 90. Keep it in mind, 90 minus I and 90. So automatically the third angle will be equal to this I. That means angle DBZ equal to I. DBZ equal to I. Keep aside. Now again, I said this is the refracted angle R, and this is the perpendicular distance. What does it call? I denoted with KD, the line segment, perpendicular line segment between the two refracted rays is KD. So this angle should be 90. If this is R, what about the angle KBD? KBD also will be 90 minus R. Glancing angle of the refraction, 90 minus R. You can see from the triangle KBD, this is 90, this is 90 minus R. Automatically the angle KDB equal to R. Yes, you have gotten your right angle triangles to get the ratio sin I, sin R. Yes, from the triangle BZD, if you take sin I value, what is that sin I value? I equal to opposite side by hypotenuse, means ZD by BD. In the same manner, from the triangle, right angle triangle BKD sin R means sin R equal to opposite side by hypotenuse. Hypotenuse means BK by BD. You can see here ZD by BD, BK by BD. By using these two terms, we will get the relation ZD by sin I equal to BK by sin R. It will be written there. ZD by sin I equal to BK by sin R. So, I will obtain like this, sin I by sin R, so that I can write this one ZD by BK. You can see again, from the triangle BZD I obtained sin I equal to ZD by BD. From the triangle BKD, sin R equal to BK by BD. So, by using these two values, I obtained the value sin I by sin R equal to ZD by BK. But again, look into the diagram. ZD represents same plane wavefront travels here. You can see ZD is the second incident ray traveling by you having the speed V1. Consider its time period is T. In the same time period, the first refracted ray BK travels. Time period is same with the speed V2. Why? Because I said this is the first medium, this is the second medium. So, ZD represents distance equal to speed into time, means V1 into T by V2 into 2. So, TT get cancelled, V1 by V2. So, you can write sin I by sin R equal to V1 by V2 equal to, again, V1 V2. Here the speed of the radiation can be understood by the term V1 V2. V means speed of the radiation, means product of wavelength and frequency. And keep it in mind, light means, I said you before, the disturbance in the electromagnetic field. That means if there is any rest pond, peaceful pond, if you drop a stone on the surface of that pond, you can see the wave fronts, the ripple will be formed that will reach you the shore of that pond. You can see the same thing, the disturbance can be reached you. The disturbance will have some number of instances in particular time. That means nothing but the frequency, number of vibrations in unit time. That frequency will be depending on how much you created the disturbance by dropping that stone in the pond. In the same thing, how much you created at the source of the light. The frequency when it reaches the material, even the frequency of that light won't be changed. Only the wavelength will be changed. That's why frequencies are constant, they can be cancelled. You will get the relation lambda 1 by lambda 2. So, ultimately it can written sin I by sin R equal to V1 by V2 equal to lambda 1 by lambda 2 equal to mu 2 by mu 1. Why mu 2 by mu 1 means V1 by V2. Actually, you can check again if you want to. Mu 2 means C by V2. Mu 1 means C by V1. I defined before refractive index, ratio of the speed of the light in a vacuum by ratio of the speed of the light in a medium. So, if you reciprocate by cancelling the speed of the light in vacuums, you will get again V1 by V2. That's why I have written sin I by sin R equal to V1 by V2 equal to lambda 1 by lambda 2. It represents wavelengths, and mu 2 by mu 1. So, by using this relation, we will do the most of the problems from the refraction concept. But keep it in mind, according to the history, this was obtained by Snell sir. But one more name is there, Rene Descartes. He also has been given some history. He has obtained this law same manner, sin I by sin r as constant. Okay, thank you.